Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to revisit the Big Five personality model, and particularly in this presentation, we're going to look at these different characteristics through the lens of Marvel heroes. So let's get that going. So the first major dimension we have here is openness to experience, which is a lot of creativity and interest in new things, novelty, art, literature, abstract thinking. Okay, and when we talk about intelligence in this aspect or intellect, we're not talking about IQ per se. We're talking about intellect, interest in ideas. Okay, so a really good Marvel character that I thought works both for intellect and openness is Doctor Strange. So this is definitely obvious when his intellect side of he's willing to first look at the traditional wealth of information from his doctor career, right? A literal doctor, a surgeon. And then he goes into some of the more experimental stuff, trying to fix his hands. And then he goes into some of the sketchy experimental stuff. And when all of that fails, he then says, okay, like, what is some of that esoteric, what is some of that mysterious knowledge that people have access to that isn't traditional, that's kind of on the outskirts of society, it's on the edge. So I think he really connects with his intellect, and openness can be seen as creativity. And if you watch the way he puts together spells and his understanding, and also with his intellect, because he has such a wealth of knowledge, because he's read so many books, he's looked at so much information, he's able to be very creative with what he does. And that definitely shows in his fight scene with Thanos. He's able to go toe to toe with Thanos for a little while, which is quite fascinating. He's definitely one of the strongest Avengers out there. And if you've seen Multiverse of Madness, again, that creativity, that willingness to explore new ideas really shows in that movie. Okay, let's move on. Conscientiousness. Okay, so this is, dutiful achievement. This is obligation, hard work, persistence. And on the other side, it's rules, standards, processes. So, two characters that really shine in this. So for industriousness, you have Tony Stark or Iron Man, and this is a scene from his first movie where he's in a cave and he's being instructed to create weapons, and he certainly is creating a weapon, but it's a weapon for him to escape. He builds his first Iron Man suit, and throughout the movie, I saw this comment once about Iron Man, and every time he has a problem in any of his movies, in his next suit in the next movie solves that problem. He's always working, and he's working on multiple different things, right? Sometimes he's working on his car while he's working on his suit, while he's working on fixing Jarvis. He's got 10 different things going on, and he's supporting all these other, particularly in one of the Avengers movie or the Civil War movie, he has that scholarship opportunity, and he's trying to bring more into the world. So he's a really good example for industriousness. And then we have orderliness. So I think the phase one Captain America is really good for orderliness. He's really about the rules. He's really about structures, process, procedure, and doing things the right way. He's really like in a box, right? And I quite like his story. He has quite a bit of character development, and certainly some of his orderliness gets pulled back because he realizes that, hey, not everything's like it was in the 1940s. It's not black and white, right? Sometimes some of these rules got to get broken. You got to stand for your values. And even that standing for your values relates to orderliness, right? Orderliness is also a disgust sensitivity. So, to an extent, he's disgusted by people who can't play with the team, who can't work for the team, and can't sacrifice themselves. Him and Tony have a big argument over that. Well, they have a huge argument over that throughout the entire series. But yeah, I think both of these characters are really good examples of industriousness and orderliness. Okay, moving on here, we have extroversion. So this is the sensitivity to positive emotion, and then enthusiasm, talkativeness, joy, anticipation, this excitement, right? So some characters that really work for that. So under this trait category, we have enthusiasm and assertiveness. So enthusiasm, I think Ant-Man's the best example. He's just super excited. He's very happy to be welcomed, invited to the table, and to participate, even though he's breaking the law and he knows he's going to go to jail. He just wants to help Captain America, and he's always telling jokes. And I would think, kind of in the Ant-Man world, we have I think his name is Luis. I forget the actor's name, brilliant actor, but even him, he's very enthusiastic. He's always telling jokes, but maybe a bit of a lesser known character. Under assertiveness, we have Thanos, big bad Thanos, and the reason why I chose Thanos for assertiveness is that he not only is he in kind of, let's say, his modern present state, he's very assertive about his plan. It's like, no, we got to do the snap, we got to get rid of half the population, and then we will have, let's say, peace, whatever, or whatever his goal is ultimately. And he is willing to go to hell and back for that. He's willing, I mean, even to get his gauntlet, he's got to kill all but one of the dwarves. He kills all of Thor's people as well. He does achieve the snap. He doesn't care who is going against him. He sacrificed his daughter. He's very assertive, and he may not be the best example, but looking at him through a particular lens certainly helps us to understand assertiveness. Just that social dominance of, like, I don't care what you are, what your plan is, my plan will supersede that. Okay, so let's move on. Let's look at agreeableness. So this is, the dimension of interpersonal interaction. We're looking at, people who are high in agreeableness, they're very compliant, they're very nurturing, and people who are low in agreeableness are stubborn, they're dominant, they're a little harsh. So agreeableness breaks down into compassion and politeness, and I thought for compassion, Peggy Carter is a pretty good example. She devotes her life to trying to help people, creating S.H.I.E.L.D. and whatnot. And she's high in compassion, I should point out, because her next character is Rocket. But so for politeness, I thought Rocket, because he's low in politeness. He's very rude. He's up front. He'll tell you the truth. He'll tell you stink. He'll get up in your face. He can be really harsh, right? And fair enough, he's an example of low politeness, not just looking at the trait of politeness, right? He mocks people, he insults them, he steals from them, and I think both of these two characters are very good examples of these two traits. Okay, next one we have, and the last one, is neuroticism. So neuroticism is a primary dimension of negative emotion. It's the opposite of extroversion, and things like pain, sadness, being irritable, and whatnot. So let's look at this. This breaks down to withdrawal and volatility, and so withdrawal, we have Hank Pym, and I think he's a wonderful example because he gets scorned once. If you pay attention to the series, I mean, it's pretty much one time where Tony, or Howard Stark rather, they kind of ice him out a little bit, and they say, hey, like, Hank, you're a little hard to play with. And what does Hank do? Well, he withdraws into his own world for the next 20 years and doesn't come out. Nobody really knows what he's up to, and part of that was also with the death of his wife, and fair enough, right? But withdrawal relates to that, like, hey, something negative, something bad happened, and I'm going to pull back. And Hank Pym stays salty throughout the entire rest of the film series, and he doesn't really want to work with these people, and he's very difficult to work with. So I think he's a wonderful example for withdrawal. And on the other hand, we have the Winter Soldier, and I'm specifically saying the Winter Soldier for volatility, because as soon as he starts hearing that command system to start becoming that machine to just kill and go and attack, he immediately he goes into attack mode. He doesn't care who the target is, right? And so volatility is really that that reactiveness. Another good character for that would also be the Hulk, right? Particularly the Hulk, that, like, it's down to fisticuffs, right? We're gonna fight, we're gonna be violent. So I think the Winter Soldier is also a really good character for that, and particularly like the Winter Soldier, because, and the Hulk as well, right? Because they can be reasonable, and then when they're not reasonable, they're very volatile, and you better get the hell out of their way, because they're going to run right through you regardless of who you are. Okay, and that about wraps it up. And I have some resources as well that you can go to and take your own personality test, figure out what your own personality temperament is, where you rank, and get your own personalized assessment. You can read on Wikipedia as well, the Big Five, and you can look at some various lectures on these topics as well. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day. Take care.